story about Jesus. It's a 180 story. When Jesus intersects a person's life, everything changes. John chapter 4, verse 3, it says, so he, Jesus, left Judea and returned to Galilee. And he had to go through Samaria on the way. Everybody said he had to go. So it's very intentional by the author to focus in on this because this wasn't common. Jesus intentionally goes to this place in Samaria. You see, Jews didn't go to Samaria. They went around Samaria. It's like driving from Duluth to Iowa on 35. You hit the north part of the Twin Cities and it splits into 35W and 35E. And then you go around the city and then through Minneapolis or St. Paul and you meet up on the south side of the city. Or, in this case, it would be like a Jew would say, no, I'm not going through downtown. I'm gonna get on the 694, 494 loop and I'm gonna go around the cities. That's how the Jews lived during those days. In fact, they wouldn't even touch or put their feet on the ground in Samaria. And it was don't go there. These people were unclean, don't be around them. And it's interesting because they're kind of like distant cousins. They still worshiped Yahweh, but they had a different place that they worshiped. They didn't worship in Jerusalem. They worshiped in a place called Gerizim. And so why was it the Jews wouldn't go through? I don't know all of the facts of it, but I just know that it wasn't common and it wasn't normal. But Jesus still goes out of his way to meet this person he's going to meet. And he'll go out of his way to go meet you too. Jesus takes 35W through downtown. And eventually it says he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well about noontime. He sits down and he waits. I know who he's waiting for. We're gonna find out who he's waiting for. But he's only there for this person. There's a reason he comes. And then it says in verse 7, soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. So Jesus now begins to initiate a conversation with this woman. This woman who is a Samaritan. Jews didn't talk to Samaritans. Male Jews didn't talk to female Samaritans. And Jesus meets her at a time that she doesn't expect anyone to talk with her because she's usually alone. It's the hottest part of the day. She doesn't go when everybody else goes. And Jesus goes first. He makes first contact. He starts a conversation with her. And that's how Jesus works. He goes after us before we go after him. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us, Romans 5:8. In other words, Jesus comes after us. You don't get perfect and then get Jesus in a conversation. He gets you at your worst. Huh? True? And so this woman hears from Jesus and just say, hey, can you give me a drink? He's starting a conversation. The woman is surprised that Jesus would talk to her. It says the woman was surprised. For Jews usually refuse to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, you are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? And Jesus replied, if you only knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. Jesus is now going to transition a conversation. She's locked in her reality of the moment. Physical water at a well in the middle of the day. And Jesus wants to transition her thoughts to beyond this moment. So he starts talking about living water. And I want you to know that Jesus will always want to take you to a broader perspective. Those of you that are curious about Christianity, I want you to know that Jesus is interested in your ordinary everyday life, but he wants to expand your perspective on his love for you, on what he can do in and through you, what is possible in your family, What is possible in your future? You might be stuck in your reality. This is who I'll always be. But Jesus always wants to lift the lid so you can see a different picture. When I first met Jody, who's now my wife, back in 1991, we were youth leaders at Emmanuel, but I was not looking for a relationship. I was a bachelor to the rapture. And Jody was, and her twin sister, Jamie, were also youth leaders. So we were in a connect group, and my background was I love gospel, hip hop, I loved rap before everybody else seemed to get into it. So when I was with the teenagers all the time, I was just like, yo, what's up? I was talking to people, I was just being myself. And meanwhile, Jody's on the other side of the room with the other youth leaders looking and going, he's weird. Ask her, I'm telling the truth, aren't I? And so what she didn't realize is that one day I would be her husband. She didn't see the bigger picture yet. Are you following me? So the woman at the well doesn't really understand yet what really is happening. So she gets a little sarcastic with Jesus. You'll see it here in just a moment. Verse 13, Jesus replied, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again, but those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Please, sir, the woman said, this is where she gets sarcastic, give me this water, then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water. Now, she's not all in on this yet. She's like, okay, that sounds really cool. And so Jesus lets her know something. He ups it. She's not taking him serious. So now he's gonna get up in her business, her personal business, her inner world of pain, filled with turning points that have led to this moment of loneliness, usually alone at the well. And he reveals that he knows the worst part of her story. 5 husbands, plus the man she was living with wasn't her husband. So he says this in verse 16, go and get your husband, Jesus told her. I don't have a husband, the woman replied. And Jesus said, you're right, you don't have a husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. Now listen, we don't know the circumstances of her relationships. She could have been mistreated in the first marriage. The society at that time did not give equal justice to women. She could have been abused. Doesn't mean that she was necessarily sleeping around and all kinds of other. We don't know in the text. But what we do know is that she's alone. And she's drawing water at the hottest part of the day by herself. And Jesus is getting in her business. And she doesn't trust anyone because of whatever happened to her in the past. In fact, she now figures Jesus is a representative of religion. And she begins to point out what she doesn't like about religion, doesn't trust about religious people. She talks about the difference in the places of worship. Jews worship in Jerusalem. Samaritans worship in Gerizim. It's like she was saying, religion is screwed up. It isn't helping me right now. I'm hurt. You want to talk to me about worship and all of that. Why should I trust religious organizations? How many people do you know that have a problem with religion in your life? They don't trust churches, preachers, Christians, just like this woman. But just like this woman, if those people in your life meet Jesus, everything will change. You see, the woman was about to see that Jesus was more than just a religious system. Jesus replies to her in verse 24, for God is spirit. So those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. And the woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. And when he comes, he will explain everything to us. And then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. Little footnote, what she's saying here is she's got experience in religion somehow. She's a part of the Samaritan worship side of things. She knows some of the Bible at least. And she knows that there was a promise in the Old Testament of a future figure that would be called the Messiah that would save the people from their sins. She knows there's somebody that's pure and true and trustworthy, promised. But to be honest, in her life at this moment, every man she knows is not trustworthy. Every leader I can't trust. They've let her down, and she's alone. And Jesus says this. He says, listen, what I'm bringing isn't that old stuff. What I'm bringing is the promise of the Old Testament. I am the Messiah. And what I can do is I can bring truth, real truth, trustworthy truth into your story. And you can be born again in spirit and in truth. It will be real on the inside and real on the outside. Jesus is saying to her, listen, I know you've been let down, but what I'm bringing will make you brand new on the inside. What nobody else can do for you, I can do for you.